Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Good evening, one and all, and thanks very much for joining us here on the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we'll cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, and the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and, of course, your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming at classic1220.ca. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Sande Hart, and we've had the pleasure of having Sande on before. She's a great lady, and if you'd later on after the show, if you'd like to find out more about Sande, her Facebook page is facebook.com/Sande, that's SANDE.HART. And Sande Hart, welcome back to the X Zone.
I'm so happy to be back. Thank you for inviting me.
So what have you been up to since you and I last talked?
Oh, gosh, not much. Just exploring the edges of what's possible for humanity and particularly women, the role of women in the world, and being a grandmother. That's about it.
Why is it that it seems, now correct me if I'm wrong, that women aren't getting the recognition that they truly deserve? I've never understood this.
Yeah, that's what my research has been about, really. Since we spoke last, I've been up to my chin, actually, in researching this very question. And I really think it comes down to us, women. I really do. I think that we are the ones that are perpetuating the system that doesn't serve us. And of course, we are just not aware of it. Yet, as soon as we become aware of it, we have a chance to change that condition.
Yeah, it seems throughout history, whenever women were getting to a point that they were shut down, they were, it seems like men have an ego that we have to be in the front and women always have to be in the back. And I don't agree with that at all. I really don't. Because when you look at history, whenever there has been a lady at the helm, the countries have done great. And yet, no, I don't know. Maybe I've had such a great mom who's been a great figure in my life, and I've got a great wife in my life, that when it comes to suppressing women, I say, hey, guys, give it up. We need to have each other if we want to be great. Like behind every successful man is a woman. So come on, guys, get with it. Put women where they belong.
You gotta go easy on yourself, guys, too, because you're paying a hefty price for this system of domination that you're referring to. And, we've all been impacted by our history. We could go back to early Mesopotamia, like hundreds of thousands of years ago, actually, where there's evidence that was unearthed by archaeologists that discovered that there were societies where they were egalitarian in nature, where the seats of authority were at the in equality, right? There were
Mm-hmm.
men and women that ruled together. And before that, it was primarily matriarchal, which isn't the absence of men. It's it's the balance of the feminine and the masculine, and honoring both, because we both bring so many beautiful gifts to the table. And yet what happened really over time, and it's been a slow drip, so we got to go easy on ourselves today, going, this is a man's world. Well, yeah, it is, because largely the written word, the invention of the written word, and the invention of monotheism, which really the Judaism really popularized, and where it really got its footing, because there were other monotheistic cultures that didn't really last, but Judaism did, because it also came at this crossroads of the invention of writing words. So we can now
Mm-hmm.
democratize what is being told to us that God says. So we've gone from these earthly objects that were a divine feminine, that were women pregnant with life, demonstrating that the feminine was revered and honored as the life-giving source, which, let's face it, it's the truth, unless somebody
Of
can
course it
prove
is.
a man gives birth. Yeah. and and now we're looking at a faceless God that's taking on a male connotation, and
Mm-hmm.
that gave rise to the Christian philosophies. And then comes, I'm fast forwarding right up to the 14th century, 13th, 14th century, with the Spanish Inquisition in Europe, where women now are really victimized, because we were practicing earth-based medicine. We were the ones people came to for wisdom. And this was a heresy. This is considered heresy. And so, if we were so much as doing a chant to the goddesses or the gods for healing, or prescribing particular earth-based
Mm-hmm.
medicines, or even midwifing with certain chants and what have you, and giving birth and midwifing out life, which we do also, like death doulas, we were burned at the stake. Like, there were, for about 400 years, it's the largest known genocide of humanity, where women were murdered and tortured,
Uh-huh.
and made evil for our God-gifted right of giving life, and a reverence
Hey,
and relation.
I agree with you 150%.
Yeah.
I agree with you 150%. And I think that the church has done a horrible job of suppressing women, you know, up until recent times, when they've decided, all right, a woman can be a minister, a woman has the same rights as a man in the church, as well as politics.
Mm,
Look how great Margaret Thatcher was for the United Kingdom.
mm.
The royal family of the Queen Elizabeth. My God, I loved that lady. And
Yeah.
she helped the country together with Winston Churchill. They did that together. And like you said, now let's talk about the witch trials. There were
Mhm.
women, and I don't know. I still say women have gotten a bum rap throughout history, but that's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
and we have, and all of that, the languaging, being called a witch
Hmm.
used to be a compliment. A crone was a wise woman who we went to for wisdom. And look what
Hmm.
we've done to those two words.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's just chipped away at women's lack of agency and confidence for centuries. And men have been put in this machoism, and this need to be the strength and the power, and boys don't cry and all of that. That's not who we are. That's not who we are as humans. It doesn't have to be this hard to
It,
live
it
in this world.
it doesn't. It doesn't. But I hate to say it, that men like to have that role.
Mm,
I remember in the police force when the first female police officers came on. man, there was discrimination left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Just like firefighters. It's just been wrong throughout society, and I'm really glad to see that women have got their voices, and they're saying, "Hey, listen, I count. I'm no, you're no better than me." And like you said, the alpha and omega. We live in a binary existence: left, right, up, down, in, out, good, evil, man, woman. So
Yeah, we need each other to
exactly.
survive our species. Check this out. So women have more cones in our eyes, in our retinas, so we can see peripherally, which helps us be more caring of our entire community. Men have more rods in their eyes, so they see sharper colors, and also they can focus more on the kill, right? So we all have, where our bodies were designed differently, but together we make one really awesome, combination and partnership. So I really do believe that we are moving into an era away from these systems of domination, into the era of partnerism and partnership. But women have our work to do, and that's where my research and my work and my passions lie. We have got a lot of trauma to clean up. We've got to stop being so hard on ourselves, self-critical, self-doubting, and do the work. Just telling ourselves to, pull ourselves up and pull our shoulders back and head on. It's not going to be sustainable until we really do our internal work. And it's not that hard. It just requires some awareness and commitment.
Sandy, the subliminal, what was it called? The
Liminal Odyssey.
Right. We've got about a minute and a half. Can you tell us about that quickly?
The Liminal Odyssey, the alchemical power of the spaces in between, is my book that really examines what happens when we slow down to the speed and awe of wonder of what's going on in our otherwise mundane life, really to reveal and disclose how miraculous it is. And this is where we go to do our work, and that's the spaces in between. Liminal means the threshold, the space between here and there. The subfloor, that's where we go. We slow down and we start questioning assumptions, and we start being honest with ourselves, and it's glorious what we find.
But we have to be honest with ourselves in order to grow and to proceed, and to recognize who we are, what we are, and the strength behind us, by looking honestly and saying, all right, how can we best go forward? Learn from our mistakes, regroup, look back, and say, okay, let's go forward. Am I right?
You are so right. And live our authentic, sacred task on this planet, like you are doing by hosting this program, giving voice to people. Yeah.
Sandy, stand by. You and I have to take our first break. And Exonation, Sande Hart is our special guest this hour. SANDE.HART. That's all you have to put in front of her Facebook, and away you...
No dot. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh,
just Sande Hart, straight up. Make it easier on you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Look at that. See, I didn't...
I'm not... Yeah. See what happens when we partner.
You got it. Sandy, stand by. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Sande Hart is our special guest. Facebook.com/Sande Hart. That's SandeHart. Sande, what does it mean to live on the growing edge, and why do you recommend it?
Um, I've always been one to think outside of the box,
Uh-huh.
and even as a child, I had a wild imagination of what's possible. And if you remember, in our last call when we were discussing a story in my book, I was the one who started a chant at a no nukes rally amongst 100,000 people because I heard a dog was locked in the car on a hot day. So I have always been a tad unconventional in my activism or anything. And that's just an example of living on the growing edge, which is really where the uncertainty is, the uncharted territory outside of this box, right? This box of what is conventional. And I happen to believe it's where we find new solutions to old problems. I think it's where we have to go now. These times are calling us to get creative,
Mm-hmm.
and we know where we're going, and it doesn't look good. We're going to change directions, and what does that look like? And up into this point, we really need a new box. And whether we're fixing the environment, the climate issues, or our political system, or our healthcare systems, or relationships, we tend to have this. We're trying to fix the problem within the same configuration and stratification that created it.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, that's just the definition of insanity.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it's no wonder the women's movement has only got us so far. And you're asking this question because we've been fighting against something, trying to fix it within a man's world, or this system that's never been designed for us, rather than creating something new and better. And by the way, I know, and we've seen it hundreds of thousands of years ago, and I know because I know how women are wired, and my research is showing me this, that what we do build will improve conditions for everyone, no matter how you identify. And definitely it'll improve the conditions of our planet and the health of our planet and our climate.
How do you think that can be accomplished? Like, that's a big order.
Yeah, well, I don't do anything small, but it
Ah.
really just requires each of us to, like I said earlier, slow down in that liminal space and go, do I really mean what I'm saying? Am I really being in my integrity? Am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing in the world? Start questioning every assumption. Start paying attention to the words you use and start questioning every assumption. And asking yourself, what does it mean to take this out of my life if it's not serving me? And what will that look like? And the more we live, and that's the growing edge, that I don't think we've been ready for yet, in all honesty. I think we had to come to this level of consciousness, this wokeness, if you don't mind me using that expression, because but I think, and we're here now, and I think that the more we stretch that edge, and leave behind what doesn't serve us, and the more we live there, the more it grows. And it's kind of like building a bridge as we're walking across it, right? It may take a little courage and imagination and hope, but it really is as simple as slowing down and asking ourselves, is this truly authentically what I think, what I mean, and am I living my life the way I should? And when we're there, and sometimes we're forced there by circumstance, by relationships failing or what have you, or whatever circumstance may be a gut blow, um, or perhaps it's just something we're scared of. It's really where courage meets commitment to do something important and true for ourselves, and to keep building that bridge as we're going. So how do we do that? It's a one person at a time job.
But how will that work in a world where everything is so fast, where
Mhm.
you're inundated with news 724, 365? It's a very fast-paced world. Now, if you slow down, how are you going to accomplish all this if you're going against the flow?
Well, I don't see it as going against the flow. I see it as forcing a new flow, creating a new flow. Can't force a flow, but creating a new flow. I have slowed down and the world keeps spinning
Hmm.
and the news keeps happening and I'm not missing anything because so much of it is commentary anyway and it's just filling airways to sell commercials. So I don't really feel like I'm missing anything. The stock market isn't changing. As a matter of fact, the stock market will improve because we're going to see a better distribution of resources and there's going to be enough for everybody. And our healthcare system will improve because we'll be making different choices
Hmm.
because the politicians, particularly in this country, I'm in the United States, as you know, we oh, yikes, have you seen our political system? We're in a race for our life right now. And so our political parties,
Hmm.
if we're more conscious about who we're electing, and then we also who's funding this, because we're such a capitalistic society that you and I are can change the tide by the products we buy. Our dollar is our vote too,
That's true.
and who we support, and those corporations that are supporting the candidate that does not serve us, we're feeding them. I'm shopping their products all the time. I'm buying their cars, you know, um, and so yeah. So I do think that it's time for us to live in our integrity, and I wouldn't be worried about missing a thing. As a matter of fact, we're going to create something better together.
Speaking about your political situation down in the States, I'm taking November the 5th off, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
at home with my wife, and we're going to be watching the results on TV, and I'm going to have popcorn, I'm going to have pop, and I'm just, it's going to be a show, the show of all times, because
Yeah.
whatever happens in the United States, no matter who gets in, the Republican or the Democrat, it affects Canada. It affects the entire world. So
Absolutely.
even though the events are happening in the United States, I look at it as a worldwide vote.
Oh, heavens, yes, I
Yeah.
understand that. And, it's such a privilege to live in this country. Um, uh, and we have to remember that. And I'm sure hoping everybody goes out and votes that's listening to your program from the United States. It's vitally important to women's rights, particularly,
Hmm.
and so much. Our democracy is at stake. But our capitalism is showing itself, and it ain't pretty. And you might need more than pop. You might need more than soda. Um, but um, but yeah, it may not even disclose itself on the 5th. But it sure is going to be interesting. So you better buckle up. And listen, this is
Hmm.
the first time that look what's happened. We have an absolute epitome of patriarchy up against an absolute epitome of, on the surface anyway, of a divine feminine, a woman who speaks, of joy, of compassion,
Hmm.
of common sense, and also some mother powerful,
Yeah,
with cape and high heels, right?
that's right.
And right. And so capitalism is really, really giving us a run for our money right now because of the fear of what the implications would be. So it's really a struggle fighting voting our conscience or saving democracy is really what it's come down to. And you can probably tell where my political affiliation lies, but I want for everyone. I want there to be enough for everyone.
And I think there will be.
I do too.
I
I have
really,
faith. Yeah.
yes. You were saying that I should have something stronger than pop, and it reminded me that my mom's passed away. My dad's not doing too good these days, but at their 50th wedding anniversary, my brother asked me if I'd be the master of ceremonies. I have no idea why, but I did, and I we were sitting there. It was Montreal. We had all friends, family around, and I got my mother up to the podium, and I said, "Mom, what did it take for 50 years, to be with Dad? How did you accomplish this in this world?" And she said, "Well, son, I taught your father 2 words." And I said, "What were they, Mom?" She said, "I taught him how to say Yes, dear. Everybody just loved that, right? So my dad is there, and my dad's a very quiet person. And I brought Dad up, and I said, "Well, Dad, 50 years with Mom. How did you do it?" He said, "Son, like your mother, 2 words." I said, "Yes, dear." He said, "No, son, Jack Daniels."
There you go.
Yeah.
Everyone wins.
But that's the way it should be. There should be no losers. There's enough of winning to go around for everyone. And instead of making it a competition, let's work together and get to the goal, the finish line at the same time, and we can all be champions and we can all celebrate at the same time.
Yeah, that's the meaning of survival. Adaptability and compassion. Darwin never said survival is for the fittest to mean the most competitive.
That's right. And I think that we're at the point in this existence of this planet, Mother Earth, not Father Earth, Mother Earth, that we have to get our ducks in an order, because we're not only destroying the planet, we're destroying humanity. And we all have to get on the bandwagon and say, hey, listen, we're all together on this little isle, this little rock in the middle of space. No matter what color the outer layer is, the skin, inside, we're all the same. We all bleed red. We all love. We all hate. So come on, let's just do it right, and do it not only for ourselves, but the future of our planet and the future of our families. Sandy, stand by. You and I have to take a break. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about this lady, visit her Facebook page, facebook.com/Sande Hart. And Sandy is Sande, Hart is Hart. And we'll both be back as we return to this. I think this is a very important topic for these days. Our guest, Sande Hart, and I return on the other side of this break. And we're coming to you on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, and of course on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ here in St. Catharines, and they stream us around the world on classic1220.ca.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back and pretend, 'cause I've heard it all before, and I've been down there on the floor. No one's ever gonna keep me down again. Whoa, yes, I am wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can do anything. Woman, I can hardly express my mixed emotions and my thoughtlessness. After all, I'm forever in your debt. And woman, I will try to express my inner feelings and thankfulness for showing me the meaning of success. Well,
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. Sande Hart is my special guest. And yes, I let that song go a little longer because I love it. So I think that's one of John Lennon's best songs. But I'm a Beatle fan from way back when. I still remember watching the Beatles in front of the black and white set in Mom and Dad's living room. Of course, back then, the children sat on the floor, the parents sat in the chairs, but it was a great time. Sande Hart is my guest, X-Zone Nation, and she's the author of the Liminal Odyssey, the alchemical power of the spaces in between, your Liminal Odyssey for discovery and disclosure, making a difference 101. And, you know, since you and I last spoke, you've been actively engaged in researching the future of women's leadership. Can you tell us any of the outcomes that you've come up with?
I can. I didn't mention earlier that what inspired my
Mm-hmm.
research was when I first heard the Dalai Lama use the expression, or say, proclaim, actually, not that long ago, that Western women will save the world. The world will be saved by Western women, was his quote. And since then, it's been on memes and inspired women all over the world, as it taken his words to heart as if it were an ordination. Yet to do that with integrity and fidelity, like I said earlier, so that it's sustainable and resilient,
Mm-hmm.
we have this internal housekeeping to do. And I've seen too many women, especially white women of privilege, claim this glory, and they are doing us all an injustice. And I was one of them. And that's really, watching the behavior. And well, that's like, well, okay, so just because you're a Western woman does not give us this authority. We have to really earn that, that reverence. And like I've said a couple of times, clear that trauma that has been inflicted on us, that comes out sideways, even in our relationships with other women. What I refer to as the sister wound or the woman wound. I didn't coin those words, but I refer to them often. And those eras that I mentioned earlier that existed were, they were led by women who were, operating in what the Dalai Lama would refer to as women who would save the world, and they did. And during their runs, during those eras, there were no signs of warfare either, besides the other indications that I shared with you.
Mm-hmm.
And yet here we are today, and we what we've learned over time and in our history is that it only takes a cultural shift of acceptance of who women are in relationship to our world, and how we make, like I said, how we make decisions and nurture and care for all in order to create a world that's evenly distributed with resources. And our problems are solved without warfare and name calling and all the fun things you see coming out of our country right now. That is that old tired system that's dying. And that's why the patriarchy is holding on with life and limb right now, because that's what happens when anything dies. There's that resistance. So where my research has been is to explore really what is our role, because I can talk all day long about what I think our role is, but really I wanted to do this in a clinical research model, again unorthodox, because that's how I do things, but it's been quite profound and surprising to me, because if we are to midwife this new era, like you said earlier, that is a pretty big calling. And um, and I'm not suggesting we go back to those eras of early Mesopotamia or Crete or Asia or North or South America, or wherever all of those cultures did once exist. But we can look and go, okay, we had the capacity then. That means we have the capacity now. And I believe that women have to lead this work. So my research, well, I should say that my favorite part of the research have been that let's see, I'm up to 70 now conversations that I've been having with one-on-one with folks ages 15 to 93 years old
Mm-hmm.
across 35 sectors of society, from educators to a nun to a psychologist to a social scientist to a death doula, a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and uh, I could just go on, right? Mary Magdalene scholars. I have had the privilege of speaking to 70 people across all of this range of diversity, and we have these casual conversations that are intentionally casual, because any conversation I'm in that's a casual one-on-one conversation, we go deep. For some reason, it just happens. We go deep. And it really turns into be like a philosopher's cafe, before we're waxing and waning now, before we know it, and really coming up with some great ideas. And from that, I'm getting the most magnificent gems of wisdom that are really taking shape in terms of generalized outcomes.
Can,
Um,
can you share
yeah.
some of that wisdom with us?
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, one is, the healing
Hmm.
of the woman wound, the sister wound, going into that intergenerational trauma, and then looking at what generational trauma is through our bloodline. I can talk about intergenerational trauma for months on end, being Jewish. Even though may not have known much about my heritage, which I happen to, but if I didn't, I would still get inclinations that something was wrong if something would threaten that democracy, for example, um, and or my agency. But now that I do know where my fears would come down the line from in this intergenerational, from generation to generation,
Hmm.
what my ancestors have experienced really since the beginning of time for us, um, it is woven into me, and it's carried not only through my bloodline, but it's also carried and through cellular memory, which science has proven it actually does, because our cells actually have each cell has an intelligence. So this is science, but also through behaviors. So my father reacted a certain way when something happened, and I'm likely to either behave in that way or influenced by his behavior
Hmm.
somehow. So paying attention to our generational trauma is a big one. Language and narrative is really big, and we can come back to that, because changing our story and changing our language is significant, and we could probably do an entire show on that. And that's just two of the outcomes that I've been coming to.
Let's talk about changing the narrative in the evolutionary impulse mentioned in your bio. Uh,
Mm.
can you tell us more about it and what it is significance during these transitional times? And how do how are you so sure we can actually do this? Like, it's pretty a tall order.
Well, yeah, and again, I think I use this expression, I think, on our last call together, that it's a destination without distance. It's
Yeah.
right there with us. We have it in us. It's already there. And either we don't choose to see it, or, yeah, I just think we haven't taken the time and the willingness to see it. But once we do, we can't unsee it, that it is there for us. So we know we're in these evolutionary times because systems are falling apart. That, I think, all system scientists are declaring now, and philosophers and visionaries and theorists, and all kind, even economists are going, things are changing dramatically. The climate action groups, we are really at the nexus, right, where things are changing. Things have to change. And we note that through history, that anytime we've come to such a pivotal point in our existence, in our culture, in our society, that we move into the next era. And and that requires, again, living on the growing edge,
Right.
because we could only have growing edges at every new era. That's how we got to the industrial age, for example. And so why should this age be any different? So that's how we know we are shifting. And changing the narrative, if you think about it, um, our words express what we think. And we often use words that may not reflect what we mean to say. And that
True.
therefore it works in reverse too. So I'll give you an example. I don't remember if we talked about this, but I'll say it again because I can't say it enough. Um, let's take the word just, Just, out of our language. Because I'm going to say, I just have something to add, or I would just like to, you know, suggest. We're already telling somebody that I don't have a lot of confidence in what I'm about to tell you. Or I'm feeling small and I'm asking you for permission. I just want to ask something. If you take that word out, you're asking your question, you're suggesting something. You don't need permission to have your voice heard. Why is that? And that's part of the woman wound, right? We feel like we have to play small, or we are playing small, what have you. So so while that may feel arbitrary, that silly little word, what it does is it builds muscle capacity of awareness of our words. It's a fun little exercise that the more you do it, you strengthen other awareness for other things and other words you say. So it's really time that we start using words that reflect the integrity of who we are and what we want to say, and mean it. And then mean what we say and say what we mean. And use and words, like I said, they really, we really can't, we owe it to ourselves, I should say, to be more careful about how we think of ourselves, because how we think of ourselves comes out in our words.
You and I have to take our final break for this hour, but I can't imagine certain phrases like "just in time," or
Yeah.
I just wanted to have one piece of pizza.
Well, there are some exceptions.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there are, and let's come back to this, because
All right.
This is good.
All right, stand by, my friend. Exonation, Sande Hart is our guest. Go to her Facebook page, facebook.com/Sande Hart, and that's SANDEHART, and we'll both be back as we wrap up this first hour of tonight's show here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, coming to you on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, X Zone Broadcast Network, and of course, your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ in St. Catharines, Ontario. In fact, just down the street from our studios here. And they stream us on classic1220.ca.
I will try to express my inner feeling and thankfulness for showing me the meaning of success.
Hands that are strong but wrinkled, doing work that never gets done. Hair that's lost some of the beauty by too many hours in the sun. Eyes that show some disappointment, and there's been quite a lot in her life. She's the foundation I lean on, my woman, my woman, my wife. Every day has been uphill.
Sande Hart is my special guest this hour, Exonation, and if you'd like to find out more about Sande and the great work she does, visit her Facebook page, facebook.com/Sande Hart, and that's SANDEHART. Sande, we were talking about taking certain words out of your daily vocabulary. We were talking about the word just. And I said, well, I was thinking about, okay, how do you say, well, just in time? Or I just want one moment of your time. I look at that as not going that you're at, it's like, I don't think that you're asking or begging for time. I think that what you're doing is respecting the person enough to say, well, I know you're busy, but can you just give me some of your time, or something like that? So what words do you keep and what words do you get rid of?
Yeah, and I hear you. And there are occasions where the word just makes sense. Like,
Hmm.
I just received something. Yeah, it means
Yeah.
time, timefulness, right? Where, and it also works by saying, I want to hear you, or I want to give you time. But you see what it is? It's more of a practice because, when we're using it in that way,
Hmm.
and by the way, women use it a lot. And also we say I'm sorry a lot. Excuse me works too.
So
We're
do all
just so used to
Canadians.
pauses for reading.
Canadians are
So
known for saying "I'm sorry."
yeah.
Yeah.
Say that, yeah. Yeah. So there the condition that women have experienced of having to apologize for their very breath. Um, it's an exercise in awareness. And again, it's benign, it might be arbitrary, and yet the women that I know that are practicing this, this level of awareness
Hmm.
have noticed considerable differences and how they've started changing how they think about themselves. But here's a few more words that you'll be surprised by. And this one is really hard to get rid of, but think of the word submit. Again, another word, does it really make that big of a difference? But submit is really a system of hierarchy, a system of domination. And if we are really serious about growing into an era where there's no submissions anymore, in other words, you can contribute, you can propose, you can present, you can send. There's so many other words that replace that word. Again, another benign example. Now, here's one that's not so benign. And architects and engineers who build how draw blueprints,
Sure.
and home builders no longer use the expression master bedroom. It's now considered the primary bedroom.
Hmm.
Yeah. Same with the word civilization. And master's programs too. Universities are starting to look at another expression, a master, because what was a master? And where did that term come from?
And yet, in the music industry, when you're cutting a final of a
Yeah,
record, it's called a master.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So these are words that we use, and we look at the historical origins of them, and is there a way to replace it so
But
we are not perpetuating that?
let me ask you, and are we getting too picky?
Yeah, we are. And the reason I do this is for the simple practice of awareness and respect, and it gets me thinking and more creative, and really what another thing to say
Hmm.
is. For example, empower. If you think about the word empower,
Yes.
it is, I am empowering women. Well, that puts me in a hierarchical position
Right.
where the truth is, okay, I might have some lived experience or
Hmm.
education or something, but we are really here to learn from each other, because there's no teacher that doesn't also learn from their student.
That is true. That is true.
Right? And so what happens when we just start changing our language from repower from empower, which the root is
Hmm.
empire,
Imperative. Yes.
empirical, to in power or repower, reminding us. So I repower women. I remind us who we are, or empower us when we're going in, to
But we
remind us who we are
but
internally.
we can also take the word power out of the equation.
Yeah, I have a whole chapter coming up in this new book on power, because there's so many definitions of power that would surprise you. I've had 70 conversations and 70 different definitions. It's wild.
Uh, Now you've had 70 conversations with 70 different ladies between the ages of 15 and 70. But did you also have the same conversation with men?
Yes, it wasn't all women.
Oh,
Yeah, I would say
oh,
largely it's women,
okay.
but I would say about 5% men. And I'm not done yet.
Okay.
I'm not done yet. Yeah. So by time I have 100 in my research, there will probably the large amount, the remainder will largely be men. So it'll be more equal. But I needed to go to women first for the first part of my exploration, because it was a blind research. It was like, I know something's out there, I don't know what it
Hmm.
is, and let's start talking about it. And then it became very clear to me.
Were you surprised by your results?
Oh, yeah. I'm delighted and surprised and amazed and tickled and dumbfounded and humbled. Yeah, it's really been remarkable. And it is a forthcoming book. Yeah, because I have to. It's good stuff. And it's not coming from me. It's all of these conversations that are just remarkable and magical. I'm so blessed.
So basically, you're the spokesperson.
I have that dubious responsibility. Yes, I am. And
Eh,
I'm using a lot of their quotes too.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, my friend. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
would you say if you were to receive an invitation to speak as, yourself, Sande Hart, and all the great work that you've done, to the General Assembly of the United Nations?
Hmm.
What would your message be to them? Like,
Mm,
I understand the entirety of your message, but what
hmm.
would you focus on?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really great question because I'm looking at a room full of member states,
Hmm.
members of the United Nations that are political leaders, and they all have their agendas. And my talk would largely be to remind them of who they are and hopefully inspire them to remember their authentic power through their integrity because it's going to take all of us at once if we want to make a shift at the level of what the United Nations is considered an institutional mechanism, right?
Hmm.
And yet I don't necessarily think change is going to happen from the UN, or it would have happened by now.
Oh,
I think
listen, I agree with
yes.
you. I agree with you. And there's a lot of people in high places who talk a mean game, but when a push comes to shove, you don't see the action that they talk about.
No, they say what sounds good to get
Yeah.
elected.
Yep.
The promises they make, we see that. Um, we're seeing that here, right? It sounds good, and let's keep us in fear that we absolutely need that. But what we really do, and yes, and I do know that this sounds a tall order and a little airy, maybe fairy, and a little woo.
Ah,
But we got to start somewhere. I should not say but. And we get to start somewhere. And that starts with us. And doesn't that just feel good?
sure does. You know,
It's sort of easy. To
I don't
slow
think
down.
I don't think it sounds woo woo at all. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do too. And it's time. Like I said earlier, the world doesn't need to be this hard. We weren't wired and built like this. Our bodies aren't designed to take on this stress and this level of our
Yeah.
sympathetic nervous system constantly on edge.
And it's just going to get worse if it doesn't change because now with the advent of AI and what this can do not only to the mass media and how it can totally manipulate. How is
Mhm.
this going to affect what you're trying to do?
I really think you just brought up something really important, and we have to be up there. This is where integrity really comes in. But I really think AI is definitely already changing the world second by second,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
It's different today than it was a minute ago that we started talking. Yet perhaps we move away from our devices. Perhaps we move away from certain um, shackles that bind us, like
Oh, I
television
couldn't
and
agree
things
with
like
you
that.
more. I couldn't agree with you
Yeah.
more.
What happens if we do that? Then AI doesn't let AI do what it will, and it will.
Yep.
And we really don't. We created this monster, so all we could do is be in our integrity and and fulfill our sacred task here, which is where our passions meet the needs in the world.
Personally, I think technology has been a ruination in a lot of aspects when it comes to the communication technology, like the iPhones, the iPads. It's taken people away from humanity and put them into this technological aspect. Like people, when they go to restaurants, they don't talk anymore. You can see them there on their iPhones and this and that and the other. My goodness, I know members of my own family when they sit down for supper, they don't talk anymore. What they do is da 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 with their iPhones. Like this is crazy. Get back to
Mhm.
being humans. like talk to each other, learn about each other, work on things together. My God, what about that? Discuss your days, because this is where I believe we need to get back to the basics. Because, man, we're going the wrong direction. But I'm glad you're there, Sandy, and I'm glad that you're doing all this great work to take us to a place where I believe that we need to be.
It's a destination without distance. It's right here.
Sandy, the time has come, my dear friend, when you and I must say so long for now, but we're going to have to get you back on because you are one very fine lady, and I love talking to you.
Oh, me too. Thank you. I'm holding my breath, so hurry up.
All right, friend.
I'm happy to come back.
All right, take care of yourself, Sandy, in regards to your family.
Oh, thanks so much. You too.
XO Nation, Sande Hart has been my guest this hour, and I promise you we'll have Sandy back because she still has a lot to say. And just think about what she says, and please go to her Facebook page, facebook.com/Sande Hart. That's SandeHart. And I'll be back on the other side of this short break as hour number 2 of tonight's show starts right now here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. And don't forget, we're on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network. Did I forget anybody, Craig? Nope, of course, I forgot. Classic 1220 CFAJ here in St. Catharines, Ontario, streaming us live and around the world on classic1220.ca.